Gang, welcome aboard once again for the weekly Mac Forum video chat. I hope that you've enjoyed your week. We are about a day behind on the broadcast this week, partly because of the inclement weather last night and our internet connections, lots of lightning in the area, so decided to put things off until today. So let's get right into it. We got a lot of things on the show tonight. First of all, I want to point out, and I'll get to the Automator section at the end. We'll run through it real quickly, but I will have that there. I want to show you how to send automated birthday greetings. You send an email to someone on their birthday and how we go about doing that. Here's one way to do it. I'll pass that information on to you this evening. So let's get right into it. First of all, welcome to our newest member, Gamekins, and that's quite a bit of. We had quite a few new members join this week. I hope each and every one of them finds something interesting in the forum, something helpful, and let's get right into it. See what we find in the forum. First of all, I'm going to get rid of that top site section right there. All right. This thread is in our switcher area, and it's from Silverdale, wanting to know some really good links for new Mac users, and several of our members chimed in with some ideas and suggestions. So if you're a new Mac user and you're trying to get up to speed with your machine and you think you might benefit from having a little bit more information, there are some links in this thread. I want to bring particular attention to a post by member Randy B. Singer. Randy, as usual, posted a lot of quick, good information. Several links there. You may not need to go through all of them, but certainly you'll find something helpful there. I found out something that I did not know. One of the books that's available is one that had not been updated. The Missing Manual series hasn't in most cases been updated to deal with Sierra, but it does have an El Capitan edition according to Randy, and El Capitan and Sierra are very similar. So if you have a look at some of the El Capitan material missing from the Missing Manual and you think you would like it and find it helpful, then even though that manual covers El Capitan, very similar for Sierra, so you should be good there. But some of the other material that Randy posted is more specific to Sierra. Some of it's just really basic information, covers the last several operating systems. So give that a quick look if you need some help. Then also, member Bud Vidoff wanted to know about a dashboard problem, specifically the dictionary. Now, what he was talking about, I'm going to bring this up on the screen as soon as I can find it in my here we go. Now, normally when you pick the dictionary, as you can see here, I've got several choices where the dictionary can pull information from. The dictionary itself, the thesaurus, the Apple site, and Wikipedia are the ones that I have selected. But what this particular member is having trouble with is some of the options that used to be in this list are not showing, and what he wanted to know was, how do I get those back? How do I make them show? And he was on the verge of doing a complete reinstall. Okay? And I want to give a shout to Mac and Win, whom we know on the forum as someone who's always got some helpful suggestions. And one of the things that he suggested was to do the following. This will probably fix it. What you want to do is go into Dictionary, open Preferences. Now, and as you can see right here, you have different options to check and uncheck for things that you want. I've set mine to prefer English, US English, of course. For me, some of you will want to use the UK version. I've also set mine to use the diacritical variant of US English. But here are some other options. Each one of these that's checked should be what's appearing in your list. Now, if they're not appearing there, what we're going to do is we're going to go into Dictionary again. I'm going to go to Preferences, and when I click on these, I want to make sure that they're selected. But you can also let me see where Jake reminded us to go. There is a way to go in and select it, okay? Click on it and delete it. Delete the option of a particular dictionary and then put it back, okay? So this thread describes that for you. This is short of doing a complete reinstall, okay? So that's one way to avoid having to uninstall and reinstall the widget. It's kind of a brute force way to do things, but it will often take care of that little problem for you. So that's a good way to look at this and deal with some of the issues that you might have with that. And I put a link to the thread. It's not popping up for me tonight exactly the way I normally have it. I'm not sure what I have changed there. I'll take a look at that and see if I can figure it out. But if you look at the directions in the thread, they're pretty self-explanatory. Should come up fine for you, and maybe it will fix a problem. All right, next thing that comes up in the forum, one of our senior members wanted to know why there is this little red circle with the number 1 showing up in system preferences in the dock. Okay? Now this is similar to the little red badge. The circle he's talking about, I don't have it in system preferences right now, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But look, it's similar to this little badge that you would see in Mail, or in the here I've got one in my Reminders app right now. You'll see it in the App Store sometimes. He wanted to know, why is this number 1 showing right there? What does this mean? Well, one of our members, Charlie, points out that this is Apple's way of telling you that they want you to install two-factor authentication on your Mac. The solution to this is to go into System Preferences, okay? And what you want to do to get this to go away, go into System Preferences, open Security and Privacy, and as you look around in some of these sections, I'm not going to poke around in them right now, but you can see where they are, okay? And as you go through this, you can opt out of two-factor authentication if you want to. I've already turned it on for me. So, but if you follow Charlie's directions in there and opt in or out of two-factor authentication, that red 1 will go away. Now, that's something that takes care of the problem for a lot of people, in the sense that it stops this error, and it may be that the notification appears more prominently in your iCloud section. Okay, So it may be coming from iCloud, but it has to deal with Sierra and two-factor authentication. When I post the show notes, I'll give you an exact location where to look for that option. I thought I had it marked, but apparently I didn't. I will get that out for you in the show notes, which will be posted shortly after the show. All right, this one, member Gary Brackens is asking a question about how it is that the App Store knows what applications are on your drive so that it knows what to send you a notification about. And I did not know. I learned something that I did not know, okay, in the course of this thread. And it comes from Mac and Win, remember Mac and Win, aka Jake. And the App Store uses the database from Spotlight to decide what's on your system. Okay? So if it's giving you some incorrect or erroneous information, one solution to that is to initiate re-indexing of that drive. And it's going to not only it's going to not only look at your internal drive to see what's installed there, but it will also look at any other drive that's attached that might have apps on it, unless that drive has been excluded from a Spotlight search. Jake's directions are pretty clear. I want to give kudos to him because that's something I did not know. And if I did not give him a reputation boost, I'm going to check that in a minute here after the show's over. If I haven't given him a reputation boost for this piece of information, I'm going to be doing it right after the show because that's something that I did not know. And as I told you last week, I'm constantly learning new things. All right, this next one will be of interest to users who have an iPhone 5C and they tried to update to iOS 10.3. Some people are discovering that when they try to do what's called an over-the-air update, in other words, they're not connected to iTunes and they're trying to update via their internet connection, by a wireless connection, for example, they're having some issues. Despite the fact that the 5C should run iOS 10.3 with no problems, they're sometimes finding issues. The solution to that is to connect through iTunes and do the update that way. That seems to allow you to go ahead and finish the update. Also, now I saw just today, right before the show, when I loaded this thread, it appears that they've released a 10.3.1 update that should fix this problem. And so it'll re-enable OTA update for the 5C. Okay? Now, I can't tell you for sure if that update fixes the problem because I'm not running a 5C. So, and I did not have this issue when I did a 10.3 update on the iPhone 6. So, I'm not sure if it's been fixed or not, but you can give it a try. According to our member Razor Edge, it has been, and he's usually pretty reliable when it comes to this kind of information. All right, let's dive into a couple of more things. That's a pretty good roundup of what's in the forum this week. Here, speaking of iOS 10.3, the Tech Connect site has an overview of the new features that have been added to iOS 10.3. I'm not going to talk through all of these. I'm sure that you can read through them. It's several different slides worth. One of the things that's been added is the ability to track your earbuds and find them. And I see you just saw my screen blink there for a second and this little birthday thing pop up. I'll tell you what that's about in a second. We'll get to that in just a second. It popped up a little bit earlier than I anticipated, mainly because I was running a minute or two late with getting started tonight. But anyway, this is a good collection of information about iOS 10, the new podcast widget, and some other changes. Feel free to give that a look. It's a very thorough and helpful little tidbit of information. All right, let's move right along. And we'll see here. The next thing talks about privacy settings and your ISP and some changes in U.S. law that would, under certain circumstances, allow ISPs to sell data such as your browsing history to advertisers. A lot of people are a little bit upset by this, but as some of you have pointed out in the thread, and we do have a forum thread going about this, and I'll put a link to that thread in the show notes. But one of the things that is true is that a lot of the information that they would now have the right to sell if this becomes law is the same kind of information that most advertisers are already, most online sites and vendors, etc., are already collecting and or selling and trading. So this will give you a good overview of that whole situation, and you can make your own decision about how important you think it is. All right, and last, for the forum side of things, I want to mention something that occurred on the Apple discussion forum, and I'll put a link to this in there as well. I had not, prior to this past weekend, been on the Apple forum in quite some time. And I went back just over the weekend and started looking through some of the old posts, answered one or two questions, and then I stumbled upon this thread where one of the users on that forum had gotten a a phone call from someone claiming to, it's an automated call, claiming to be from Apple, and saying that there had been suspicious activity on their Apple account. All right, and they were suspicious and came to the conclusion that Apple does not make such calls, particularly robot type calls. So this is an example of something, another one of the scams that's been floating around. This does not appear to be in any way legit. A couple of months ago, I got one from somebody claiming, as an email, claiming that my Apple account had been compromised, my App Store and other iCloud and all of that had been compromised. A couple of things immediately caught my attention. First of all, the grammar was atrocious. But before I noticed that, the first thing that I noticed was that when I looked at the header of the email, if I looked at the sender at the information that it was sent to, it had been sent to an account that I have not used consistently in probably 5 or 6 years. And in that time, I have never, even when I was using that account on an almost daily basis, I have never had that account as a contact point for Apple to contact me with regards to anything. So there was no reason for Apple to be using that account and expecting me to reply or interact in any way. So that raised a red flag for me. So that's just one more thing for you to keep an eye out. Anytime you get something that purports to be from Apple or from your bank or anything like that, rather than click on the link in the email or answering the phone call, get in touch with them through an email or a phone number that you know to be legit. In other words, you initiate the contact. Don't go through with whatever link or whatever else they may have sent you. That is just one way to get a lot of headaches sometimes. So, all right, that's going to wrap up our little tour of the web this week. Now, a second ago, you saw my screen blink, and I told you I was going to show you what that was all about. So let's take a look here. I'm going to bring something up, and I want to show you something that I think is going to be of interest to you. Last week, if you'll remember, I talked a little bit about using the different Apple programs together to accomplish things. Interoperability between programs. Let me show you one thing that I did. I hope this is the right email or right calendar event. I have a recurring calendar event here to remind me to tune in to the Blues show on KXCI Public Radio in Arizona. Now, I set it at a time when that particular blues show was on, but if I click on it right now, what will happen is it's going to go down, and if everything works correctly, it goes to click on and go to that site. But what happens, that's a good way for me to remember the URL. When that alarm goes off in my calendar, it pops up in notifications, and it then allows me to click on the link and it'll go to it. But what I've done in the past, and I took it apart the other day to test something else, so I haven't put this back. But one of the things that you could do is set up a calendar alarm that would trigger, go to the appropriate web page, and then launch that music player. Now I'm going to show you how I did that, but this time we're going to use it to send birthday greetings to somebody. Now, just to let you know that this worked, I want to show you something. I created a fake contact earlier today in my contacts application. There you can see I created somebody named Mike Anybody, and I set their birthday for today. That's your first step in prepping this whole setup. Make sure that you got birthdays and email addresses for as many of your contacts as you might want to send birthday greetings to. And now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to close that. Now, to edit the tag, before I close it, to edit it, you're just going to select someone, click edit. You can make changes, do any of that. When you're ready to save it, click done. All right, when I've got all of that done, I'm going to close contacts, because contacts does not need to be open for this process to work. The next thing that this is going to rely on is three little programs. I have a calendar alarm, and you can see what I did is I created an event that's just called Mike Anybody's Birthday. And if you click on the event, it shows here, and you can see that that's already set up. I could show it in contacts. But when I start to look at the details for these events, okay, something interesting happens. I click on that list, and what I've done is, the reason you saw the blink is because of the following thing. Once I set up the event, here's what I did. I had this already pre-built, but you could easily build it. I went into Automator, which I showed you a little bit about last week. And the first thing I did is I went down to contacts, and I found an event or an action. I drug it over to the right. I found the action called Find Contacts People. I want to find the people, and I want to set it where all the criteria. I want to find the people whose birthday is today. Okay? It's going to look at my contacts. Contact program does not have to be open. This little function will look at my contacts. It's going to build up a list of people who have contacts. I'm going to step through this and let you see it kind of in operation step by step. All right. The first thing, it's running through That little green arrow means that it's passed. It's gotten past that. All right. Now, the next thing that's going to happen, I'm going to take those contacts, okay, and I'm going to send birthday greetings. So I'm going to go down. This is going to rely on mail. So I'm going to find the mail application, find those functions, and there is one here called send birthday greetings. Okay? When that is done, okay, now I've expanded it so you can see the options. I want it to use one of these random pictures here. I don't have the option of changing that picture, by the way, as far as I can tell in this. And then I'm going to add the next step, send outgoing messages. All right, that's what's actually going to send the message. Right in here, I've typed in the birthday message that I want to appear, and then I'm going to send outgoing messages. If that's all I want to do, then I'm done right there. I can stop, save it as a calendar alarm, and it will work. Okay? But what I did is I took one last step in this. I added something else. I built up the list again, get my contact information, and I wanted to find, it's going to find, I had it find the people again, find people with birthdays, get their contact information, and then it's going to send me a confirmation email that tells me that this was done. When I get ready to save it, I can either do a save as if I haven't already saved it, or I can export. And my option would be, I want to save this as a calendar plugin, or it also works if I save it as an application. All right, I'm gonna have this convert itself to an application. I'm gonna turn this into an application, because if I turn it into an application, I can attach it to a calendar event as well. So either way should work. When I'm done saving, I'm just going to click cancel. Now it becomes part of the event. I can create a calendar event that runs every day, checks my contact list for emails, for people with birthdays, sends them an email greeting, and then it sends me an email letting me know that these people were sent an email greeting. Okay, so let's just take a look at that. I'll prove to you that it was done. I'm going to go into my email program. Now this is one, I sent these to myself just for test purposes. Obviously you would adjust the sending. Okay, there is the confirmation email that I got telling me who it had been sent to. You can see it was sent to Mike Anybody, and that way I know that it's been sent. And if I look at sent items, there are now 2 things in the list. That was a test from the other day. Here's one, that's where I got sent to him, and here is the birthday greeting should be here as well. So I'll check that out and see if this works well. It's got a few bugs and kinks here and there if I loaded the wrong one, but you get the general idea of how this is done. Take it step by step in Automator and save it either as an application or as a calendar alarm plugin, and then have it run by setting up a calendar event. And that way you can use those 3 programs. It relies on Automator, Mail, and the calendar program to send that greeting. When I did this previously in an older version of Automator, I had it set up in such a way that I had one Apple script that ran every day. It had 3 Automator actions. And what they were done is one ran every day at a certain time. One ran once every, I think it was 2 weeks, and that was for those. It would find those folks that I did not have a email address for. And then the third one sent once a month. And the reason I did those two, the one for every 2 weeks, was what if I want to send them something via snail mail? And then the one for once a month is if you're gonna have a party or something of that nature, then you need to have time to do some planning. So I used AppleScript to control everything. The Automator workflows did the work of finding the people with the addresses and actually sending the birthday greeting. Now, the reason that I like attaching it to a calendar event is this. That little blink that you saw happens when this workflow runs. That's the only thing you see that tells you that it runs until you get that email that says everything is done. But sometimes some people can find that blink distracting. So when I was running this consistently, what I did was to put it at a time when I knew the computer was going to be on, but I wasn't going to be sitting directly in front of it. And I just let the calendar program go and do its thing, and it would run. And I used to run it at like 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. I knew the computer would still be on. I was usually up watching television or something of that nature, and I didn't have to worry about, oh, that's going to distract me. If it's not a distraction for you, you don't have to worry about running it at some weird ball hour. You can run it, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, whatever time is convenient for you. I'll probably, later this week, break this out into a little bit more in-depth Automator tutorial. This is just to show you that it could be done and what happens when you set this up. I've got two there, and I might have shown you the one that still needs a little tweaking, but they both behave essentially the same way. And if you like, I can include my original one that had the 3 workflows working together. That was just something that I did once. It started as a simple little project, got a little bit out of hand. The way that I've shown you to do it here, assuming you've already got the contact information in your contact program, then it will take you no time at all to set up that Automator workflow and test it and make sure that the email is going out as it should. Now, those of you that are using Outlook, I don't know if this can be done with Outlook or some of the other contact programs. That's going to depend a lot on whether they have Automator actions or whether you're willing to take the time to learn how to script those programs. But I just wanted to quickly show you something that uses some of the interfunctionality. I may have invented a new word there, but show you how you can combine the functionality of a couple of Apple programs to do a task that's kind of interesting. And it can be done with just a few minutes of learning Automator plus some prep work of doing the contacts and setting up things in calendar program. The contact preparation you only have to do once. In other words, once you get those names and birthdays checked out, get the email checked out, make sure everything is correct, you don't have to do that again unless you change the contact information. And just word of warning, if you want it to go to a specific email address, make sure, I'm going to take a look at that Mike Anybody's card again. He's got one email address there. Make sure that whatever email you want this sent to is the first addressed in the list. If they have multiples, make sure that whatever email you want to send their birthday greeting to is the first one in the list, because I think that action pretty much looks for just the first one in the list. So that'll give you some idea of what you can do with Automator. I hope that you found today's show interesting. Like I said, I may break that Automator workflow out into a separate little mini tutorial that goes into a little bit more detail. If I do, look for that probably about Friday or Saturday, because it'll take me a little time to do the video for it. And that's going to just about do it for this Monday, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. I have certainly enjoyed bringing this information to you. Want to thank our forum members for all the helpful tips that they chimed in without realizing it in the threads. That was certainly great, some great information. Stick with us. Go ahead and become a member if you've been lurking. And until next week, this is your host, Sylvester Rock, aka Sly Dude on the forum, and I will see you next Sunday, guys.